Hello to all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to the final episode of Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. We are taking on the final Nicote quest for attempt number 2, which is the self-titled Monster Hunter quest. It has been over 3 years in the making, and frankly, I am so excited to say that this series is finally coming to a close. But before we can do that, we have to do what is considered the hardest quest in this game, and there's quite a few reasons why. The first thing to note is that this quest features 4 separate monsters. So you have the Rathalos, the Tigrex, the Nargacuga, and the Rajang. And so there is actually quite a bit more working against you than just 4 monsters back to back. Now, the Monster Hunter series, going all the way back since the original Monster Hunter on the PS2, it's a series that has a tendency of doing things and not telling you what it's doing. So specifically, in the case of most of these Monster Hunter games, is that when you face off against the final village quest, it's not only against multiple monsters, but what the game does not tell you is that those monsters are quite a bit harder. So even though Nicote features several high rank quests, this one is technically G rank, and the game does not tell you that. And so you're going to be in for a rough and absolutely nightmarish surprise when you realize that even if you went and got all the G rank stuff in advance, you are at a severe disadvantage right out the gate. Now, the next thing that's working against you, and the first thing you have to consider whenever you're taking this quest on, is resource management. Because you come into this quest, you have all your flash bombs, you have traps, you have materials to make more, you have potions, you have mega potions, you got materials to make more of those, and you think that you're all set. Yeah, maybe. If you were in a fight against one of these guys individually, especially considering Rajang, yes, you would be well prepared. However, in this case, because you have to manage all your resources, you're not using 10 mega potions against a Rathalos. You're maybe using 2, possibly 3. And you only have a limit of about 5 flash bombs if you're really trying to take this particular quest seriously, or even less than that. So you have to be very selective about what you're using and how you are using it. And in this case, pretty much the Rathalos fight has to go perfectly. Like, maybe you can use a few mega potions, since in the context of this quest, multiple monsters in an epic hunting quest, instead of getting monster materials, you get mega potions. So that is something to consider. However, it's not really going to help you in the long run if you keep using mega potions on monsters right out the gate. So the Rathalos one especially you have to be absolutely careful for. And one thing I have noticed at the start of this quest is that even if you have an armor set with high grade earplugs like I do, don't attack the Rathalos right out the gate and expect him to just roar as though he's seeing you for the first time. I've tried about 3 times with that method, and every single time the Rathalos immediately charges at me, and it takes a huge chunk of health off, and instantly I need to use a mega potion. So if and when you're doing this quest, make sure the monster is actually roaring when they see you, and then that would be your cue to go after it. Don't just attack thinking that your high grade earplugs are going to protect you, which they're not. And the Tigrex is also another example of that, because its roar not only can still do stuff to you, it damages you as well. So it is one of those roars that launches you back and does damage. So that is absolutely just brutal. So the idea here for the Tigrex fight is that I save my flash bombs for when he goes into rage mode. I do not use any flash bombs before then, and when I know I have an opening, that's when I go to attack. And if I'm trying to monitor his attacks, I try to stay just outside of the hitbox range, and even then I'm being very selective about what sort of attacks I'm using and when. This is the sort of quest where you want to focus more on a lot of counterattacks as opposed to just going in and just blades flailing, because that would just be a bad idea unless you're using a weapon that has a shield. So in the case of lances, great swords, which, that sword itself is the shield. But in the context of this entire series, I started with a longsword, and as much as I wanted to switch to a gun lance, oh man, it would have been very inconsistent, and so I just decided I'm going to do this with a longsword. I'm going to hate myself for it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so that's pretty much the breaks. So if you're using a weapon that cannot guard, focus on counterattacking and more opportunistic strikes rather than going in guns blazing, so to speak. Now, for the Tigrex and the Nargacuga, I've saved 2 traps for the 2 of them. I have saved a shock trap and a pitfall trap against the Tigrex, and I'm saving 2 additional shock traps for the Nargacuga. Now, I'm saving the pitfall trap against the Tigrex because the Nargacuga has a method of avoiding the pitfall trap, and I don't want to risk losing any traps against any of these monsters, and so that would be a really bad idea if you go into this quest and you're already wasting your materials trying to get after some of these monsters. Now, fortunately, there are some materials around the arena for you to get, so like supply flash bombs, and you're probably going to need those against the Rajang later on, because at that point you're in trouble. You're just in absolute trouble if you're running out of resources against the Rajang. And so the method of which I'm playing is that the Rathalos fight, I pretty much have to get out of that fight without a loss for materials. So specifically Mega Potions. I have to come out of that with 10 Mega Potions is my goal. And then I could get a little bit more reckless for the Tigrex and the Nargacuga, especially since they are kind of they're crazy in terms of their abilities to attack. So I'm being a little bit more, throwing caution to the wind in terms of looking for opportunities, because you're gonna find that you're gonna lower your standards for a play against monsters that are this fast or this crazy. But all in all, when you get to the Rajang fight, you want to have all of your lives. So you don't want to die to any of the 3 monsters beforehand. If you do, you might as well reset because you're taking a big gamble. Now, here is something that I have learned, and you just saw it right here, the exploit with the Nargacuga. So with the Nargacuga, it is vulnerable to sonic bombs. However, it's only vulnerable when it's doing that particular pose, and only when it is not in rage mode. However, for some reason, if it is in rage mode, you can stun it with a flash bomb and then throw a sonic bomb, and he will get knocked over. So when he's in rage mode, when he does the pounce attack, he's a lot faster at doing it. But when he is stunned, he takes the regular amount of time the regular non-rage mode Nargacuga would usually do. So that's your opportunity to throw a sonic bomb. I brought 10 with me, but I only had 5 flash bombs, so I was going to be in quite a bit of trouble here once I ran out, especially since one of my combinations failed. That's another thing that you need to bring on this quest with you. You need to bring some book of combos to improve your odds at combination success. Otherwise, you're going to risk losing some items, and if you do that, again, you are going to be in a hell of a lot of trouble, especially when you're getting later on. And because the opportunity to hit the Nargacuga when he's stunned is so presentable, when he is down like this, I'm going all out. I'm just going nuts. So if you're a longsword user, you have the spirit combo. However, you don't want to rely on the spirit combo for this. You want to rely on maybe 2 or 3 strikes against a monster when its back is turned or after it's finished an attack. The only time that you want to use a spirit combo is when you have a guaranteed opening for it. Otherwise, you're going to get counterattacked by the monster and you're going to lose quite a bit of health. Another thing that you want to keep in mind for this quest is hitboxes, because that's the other thing that's working against you, and it's probably the one thing about this quest that will work against you the most, is that there are really broken hitboxes. It's kind of the feature of Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. It's akin to Bethesda and bugs. So Freedom Unite, its bug is the hitboxes, and they are very effective in the monster's favor. And it makes me realize how later games really spoil players, like completely. If you're into if you got into the Monster Hunter series at Monster Hunter World, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, you are spoiled rotten, because you don't have the masochistic urge to hunt monsters like the old school Monster Hunters do. Because oh my god, the older games are absolutely just terrible when it comes to fucking with players. But because of the fact that the series always likes to fuck with players, well, specifically with quests like these, you'll always get the Monster Hunter experience at some point. So with Nargacuga here, I'm getting my traps ready to end this fight, and then I am going to be on to the last monster. The Rajang is obviously the hardest one. He's fast, he hits really hard, but if there's one thing I liked about the Rajang is that it's not a monster that I fought a whole lot like on the regular. So I learned some things even when I'm fighting that kind of monster, and he taught me a few things in this particular quest, and kind of thankful for that. But then again, I don't know when the next time I'm coming back to Freedom Unite is going to be, so it could be a while. But if I do, I think I'm gonna enjoy myself or hate myself for going back to a series with hitboxes so freaking broken. And so it's getting to the point where the Nargacuga is on its last leg. As always, with the longer hunts, I tend to speed them up a little bit. Specifically, the Rathalos fight is increased speed-wise by about 40%. The Tigrex and Nargacuga are fast-forwarded by about 35%, and I think the Rajang is fast-forwarded by about another 40%. Also, because this quest takes a very long time, I've also cut out about a third of each portion. So there's a lot of minutia in the fight that you're not going to be able to see. But I wanted to showcase this part right here where I'm going around getting the items around the arena. The large barrel bomb is going to come in handy. The two supply flash bombs are also going to come in handy. And at this point, I am going to have space in my inventory for the house those items, because when going into this quest, I'm pretty much maxed out in terms of inventory space. I'm just not I'm not gonna have any space for even these supply items, so I immediately skip those. And so here we are at the last portion. The Rajang fight is the longest fight. I think it took me about maybe 20 minutes, somewhere around there, to complete. And oh man, when it comes to the counter-attacking thing I was mentioning earlier, this is the monster I kind of religiously followed that for, because I'm trying to get as many strikes as I can without him going into rage mode. Because once he goes into rage mode, that's where things get kind of chaotic to absolutely, it's almost like bullet hell with this guy. He is a single bullet in bullet hell mode, and he's flying all over the place. So this fight it's not going to be fun, especially since he hits really hard and his lightning attacks are really problematic. But there are 3 attacks that leave the best openings. So there's the 2 lightning attacks, and there is the punching attack. However, the punching attack, you have to be kind of selective about when you're going for it, because when he slams his fist down onto the ground, it's going to create a tremor effect. So unless you have some sort of quake resistance, you are not going to be able to get close to him and make a strike if you're in range of the quake. And that gets me into something else about this particular quest. The high-grade earplugs are almost mandatory. Like, you don't want to go into this particular quest without some sort of means of making sure that you are not in a position where a monster can get a free hit in. So that is ideally what you would want is high grade earplugs and possibly some stun immunity. Because if you're ever stunned, that's pretty much telling the monster, hey, I am over here, I cannot move, get your shot in. And that's where the Feline Comrade comes into play. Now, I've joked in the past that the Feline Comrade is kind of a decoy for other monsters, and especially in this particular quest, that statement has never been more true ever. Because Jasmine here has been with me. Jasmine's been my very first Feline Comrade since I've played Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, not since I started this series. Because since I started this series, I've had Jasmine, I've had Cartia, I've had Natalie. Never forget the terrorist feline from the first attempt of the Monster Hunter Freedom Unite Let's Play. But Jasmine was there from the beginning. And Jasmine in this particular hunt is fucking useless. I hate to say it, but Jasmine comes in, gets the monster's attention, gets hit, and then pieces out, and leaving me with the monster to deal with on my own. And I'm just like, really? And so Jasmine tried to heal me a few times, in fact even saved me at one point when I was trying to die, as a matter of fact. But aside from that, Jasmine's not very helpful in this. I mean, she has the ability to give me shock traps to use against monsters, but outside of that, she's pretty much worthless. You know, I really hate to say that about a feline that's been with me since the beginning, but fucking true. So, Jasmine is literally my decoy in this particular quest, and so when I realized that Jasmine is going to be worthless to me, I had to look into other means of being able to handle the Rajang, and thankfully I did find a couple of methods here. Now, this is more akin to the Rajang being in his base form as opposed to him going, Super Saiyan, because oh my god, his rage mode is just something else. But a lot of times you want to be directly under and in front of the Rajang. You want to be practically funneling this guy's sack in order to actually be safe against him, because you have a moment where you can roll and while he's trying to attack you, especially if he's trying to do a body slam, or if he's trying to do his punching attack, or if he's trying to jump up and do his lightning attack. Because if you're able to roll forward in that case, then you have an opportunity to dodge a lot easier, as opposed to trying to get at him from or trying to avoid him from the sides or something like that. Now, there's also something else that I intended to do, and that was to die. I wanted to cart. That way, I could be back at base camp. I could get some of the supply items, specifically more healing items, as well as the rations in order to maximize my stamina meter. Because that's something else working against you, is that since this quest takes so long, and if you're not going to have the inventory space, you're not going to have a means of replenishing that stamina bar. And if that's the case, you're going to have problems trying to avoid attacks. So, big problem. So at some point, especially if you can afford it, you're going to want to take the cart and get back to base camp, unless you have a Farcaster, but you're probably not going to be running a Farcaster if your inventory is full. That being said, there was an instance earlier on in this hunt where I pulled out a fish and I started eating it. And that was, I believe, the Gourmet Fish Plus. And that allows me to recover the entire red portion of my health meter if I take a big hit and I need to recover a lot of health. However, I don't recommend using it unless you have a perfect opening for it, because I thought it was going to be like a ration, just stuff it into your face and then you're good to go. But no, you have to do an entire eating animation in order to get the effects of that item. And it's supposed to make you more resilient, whatever the fuck that means. But against a G-Rank monster like Rajang, it's not going to mean a whole lot. But it is a good emergency item if you are low on potions, or if you're trying to prolong your stay into the fight before getting carted. Now, at the final leg of this fight, you're going to notice that I'm getting really up close and personal on the Rajang. And this is where I started learning that being close to him is kind of a good thing, especially when he's in his base form. When he's enraged, probably not the best option in that case. I leave him alone until he's doing an attack I know I can get a free hit on, like his 2 electric attacks. I'm not counting the one where he's jumping up and firing the electric ball. I'm specifically referring to the beam attack and the electric ball attack that he does on the ground, because he's going to be in the same position for a little bit, and that way I could get in 2, maybe 3 hits. I try not to do more than 3 hits from there, but you know, keep at it and you will eventually get this. Again, it took me 3 years and 2 weeks to finally get to this point again, but I could safely say that the Monster Hunter Freedom Unite series has come to a close. Thank you guys so much for joining me throughout the last 3 years. It's been a trip, and for the next series, we're going to be taking a look at Monster Hunter Portable Third, and I hope to see you then. So until next time, take care, people.